Welcome to another Dead by Daylight review. Bum, 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 bum. Or something like that. Welcome to another Dead by Daylight review. We have a decent amount of things to go over, so I might be able to scrape together a full episode. Cool. That's what we like to see. Obviously, I'm fixing the title, like I always do. I'm gonna put creation form review. But obviously, I'm fixing the title, like I generally do. Because that I literally have an intro that I can copy and then paste. And hopefully on my spare time, I actually remember to put all of these episodes into a particular playlist. Because by base, the playlist stays empty. I have to go here and click that for it to actually go there. I'm pretty sure that it doesn't even say that it's Dead by Daylight anymore. Nope. So, there you go. That's probably why. Why is my phone ringing? None of my videos are readily found because they're not listed under anything. You have to literally type in DBD to find said thing. But anyway, I'll eventually fix that. The alternative killer reviews, the actual big bang, good reviews that I've done, have their own separate playlists and they're all part of that. While the regular creation reviews, which I only put ones that is 100% reviews in there. If I play any other game or do any other thing, probably won't find that in the particular playlist anyway. But moving on. Again, I just woke up like usual. The Inmate Chapter, The Witch's House, The Diary of Ellen by Dark Magic. Is this an update of one of his old? I swear that I've breezed through something like this before. Yeah, based on the manga RPG game The Witch's House. I've definitely seen this before. This person deleted their entire concept and then reposted it instead of updating it. I've definitely seen this before. Or they made another killer from the witch's house. Speed 4.6 meters per second. Tear radius 36 meters. Small. Real name Viola or Ellen. My question being, nah, never mind. It's fine. 115% speed's fine because it's the regular 4.6 meters per second. So it's kind of like using the standard or metric system. You know? As long as you know the conversions, everything's fine. Okay, why in the world, Mr. Dark Magic, would you put everything, the killer's info right here with a nice picture of this particular killer and not lead on with an overview of what the killer does? You literally have wrote this like you're reading like a almost case file. Is what this kind of reminds me of. I mean, it's the same as everybody else's, but writing a case file, putting all the information here, putting a picture here, You would think that an overview would literally naturally come next. Then after the overview, you would think something else would come next. Why would you ever put animations first? Like, I understand that it's from a game, but why would you, like, bro, put all the extra crap near the bottom, because it doesn't really, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy crap. Literally, you have lobby, killer control, interaction, etc. It's like, bro, your sections are out of whack. It's that if I wasn't doing an official review, I'm gonna say official. So I'm definitely not doing an official review. On my alternative killers, the things that actually pique my interest and are actually well made, that make that title, that's where I do more official reviews. And I actually look up everything I need to know about a particular killer. I haven't found a survivor that I've been really impressed by their perks and all that yet, but you know, survivors, you can kind of throw survivors in as they come, and you don't really need to have any type of backstory or anything, really. Or you can just copy pasta. No random backstory that's not plagiarized for a particular imposter survivor. Oh boy. I played Among Us yesterday, y'all. I'm sorry. You know in Among Us that they changed it to where you can't type what you're saying anymore. You have to use this stupid wheel and try to find out where everything is. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Anyway, the power, the witch's domain. Press the active ability button to... What's this word? This word says power, yes. Then why are we pressing the active ability button to use this character's power? I've been seeing this a lot too. Like the last 2 or 3 things that I reviewed, people have used the active ability button instead of the power button. Yes, you should be looking at other people's concepts to get a general idea, to see what's good, what's bad. Hopefully, one that has, you know, a successful, you know, review of people. And everybody has been like, yeah, the good's our idea, and there's, you know, there's work to be done, but it's not 100% complete, and you can get a decent flowchart. Generally, one of the older people on the forum, you'll want to find one of their ideas, and you'll want to go off that. As whoever you went off of, which is somebody that posted recently, you're putting active ability button to use your power. If you're pressing the active ability button, then it's probably not your main power. 2, without even looking at this, you have a very small thing for your particular power. And then you have all of this leading things that start with if a survivor, if a survivor, if a survivor. So what you're saying is your power is so simple that you're able to explain all of this to me when I 100% can understand it without any type of issue. I should know exactly how long and how much of everything that's there. And then when this affects a survivor, this is going to be extreme detail for it to be labeled out like this. I should know all of this. Also, the forum itself has tools that you can use to separate things and to keep things together when it needs to be together and separate when it needs to be separate. You You can label things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do all kinds of other magical things with the form. It gives you tools to make your work look as professional as possible. And list things exactly how they're listed in the game and everything or everywhere else. This is set up specifically for Dead by Daylight. And I'm still seeing people use lines and everything else, which I mean, the lines ain't bad, they're separating things, but use the majority of the different things. I mean, I see you try, like the machetes italicized there, and the perks is slightly, slightly different from here to here, but perks is in the same font, and that's your heading. It's Vengeance, which is your very first perk. So, I mean, use the tools that are actually available to you to separate all of this and make it look better. And then put everything in the correct order. So we see the relevant things as they come up, and we don't have to wade through all of this that nobody's going to really be interested in. All of your control animations and all of that are going to be determined by whatever the game engine has. Like, for example, stun. The witch will fall flat on her belly. After that, the vines relift her. There is no killer in Dead by Daylight that falls completely over on the ground. In fact, there isn't any Dead by Daylight character that even crawls. They crouch, but none crawls, which is the closest thing you get from laying on the ground. So things like this, you're talking about a whole lot more programming and animation as opposed to your character crouching and, getting stunned or, backing up or doing something simple. You're wanting her to fall on her belly and then the vines that she has to lift her back up. It's a whole new ball game and a whole new set of animations for things. So like I said, yeah, all of these are kind of different. Kind of animation, things like that should go in the bottom, because I guarantee you most of these aren't going to be used. Also, kicking and breaking pallets, things like that. There are set animations that killers generally do. Most killers either use, their weapon or they use their feet to break pallets. Pinhead obviously is an exception because he doesn't really use his hands or anything like that, except for after he picks them up to carry them. So keep that in mind on your animations because, well, unless you know somebody that does animations for the game, you don't know the limits of the actual animators, the creation, and the engine itself. Power-wise, the witch's domain should be press the power button to enter the witch's domain. Now, in the witch's domain, you can curse objects, pallets, windows, generators, and lockets. Lockers. So you've said everything except for totems and chests. So you can curse everything but totems and chests, but cannot attack upon successfully inspiriting an object. Yeah, I've definitely went over this concept. Tokens will be used. By default, the witch has 12 tokens. Makes no sense. Why not just give her a power with their cooldown and then give her a limit of how many items that she can inspirit? Press the power button. Now let's press the power button again to exit the other world. So now you have active ability button and then you say press the power button again to exit the other world. So you are aware that the power button does exist and the active ability button Both of them are separate, which means you didn't ever reread or go over this particular concept. You just copy paste it. So there you go. Active ability button, which switches to the correct power button, is what it should be. Cursed objects will have vines or roses over them. Okay. After exiting the witch domain, for every token used, the witch's domain adds 5 seconds of cooldown of re-entering the witch's domain. Why would inspiriting other objects, even though you use the word inspiriting and cursing? Inspiriting is different than cursing, by the way. I wouldn't say that you were doing any of those to a particular object. You're literally just blocking them with roses. But sure. For each subsequently cursed object that exceeds the token limit, will replace the oldest one. Get rid of that. You have 12 tokens. That's a huge amount of placer. If you place all 12 items down, or all 12 of your curses, I'm going to start it, it's what I'm going to call it, in parentheses, curses, on 12 different objects, I don't believe you should be refunded, and you should be able to keep moving those around. I think once you place them, they should be gone until you complete a specific thing. Wait a specific time and they deactivate, or they stay until they are triggered. That's how I believe this should go, because you're giving them 12 tokens. That is a lot to trap up everything. Because the most you would end to trap up is you would want to use all 12 tokens at Killer Shack, or main building that has, you know, hooks in it. Wherever hooks are, you'll want to use all of those there. Or you would want to use 4 piece on 3 generators. And when survivors go down to the 3-gen situation, you'll want to make sure that you keep those generators cursed and all the things around them cursed. And that's going to be the meta strategy. There's not going to be no placing traps and having a survivor run to it. It's going to be you lay traps down, and as survivors try to go to particular generators, you're going to be blocking them. Plus, it don't make sense to have to enter in to the witch's domain, which you can't attack it in, and remove and replace a particular trap. And I didn't even go over the obvious things of how long all of this lasts and everything like that, how long it takes to use said power, and how long other things are supposed to last, etc., etc. I don't even go over the obvious, you know, issues. I'm going over the gameplay issues. Again, I pointed out that this was extremely short, and anybody that knows me essentially is me saying, hey, it's not going to have enough detail regardless of what they say. But let's look beyond the obvious issues of this power not being explained and not having any usability or anything like that. Like I said, gameplay wise, once you set them to 12 down, they stay until they're activated. That should be the end of it. If a survivor, or killer interacts with cursed object, the following will happen. Again, you need to take the time after you get done with the concept to come back later on and reread everything again. Because putting the a survivor, some people won't pick it up. Like if you repeat 2 words twice, somebody just generally reading through will not notice, or whoever's creating the concept won't notice the repeat, because you're skimming through and you're not actually taking things in. In obvious spelling error, you put a survivor, or killer interacts with cursed object. The following will happen. If a survivor, hang on, I think we already have a particular issue. Thanks for the scan. So you happen to scan all the way up through that instead of just knowing where the power is up top. It's kind of disgusting to me. So pallets and windows, generators and lockers. So everything that a survivor would generally interact with while in a chase or doing the main objective. If a survivor vaults a dropped pallet, that pallet will be destroyed and the survivor suffers from hindrance of what percent for 5 seconds. 1 token cost. What do you mean 1 token cost? Successfully cursing an object's tokens will be used. Upon successfully cursing an object, tokens will be used. So you're telling me that pallets cost 1 token. Whatever all of this gobbledygook is, it's going to cost 3 tokens. Generator, 5 token. Windows cost 2 tokens. Lockers. It says 2 lockers. So lockers take 1 token apiece. Then why are you making, like... This is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my life. So it costs... So you're telling me that it costs tokens to curse an object, but the cost of a token is different per each thing? Or are you telling me by, if I read this literally word for word, it costs tokens to place said curse, and then it costs tokens to activate said curse? Because if that's so, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, killer power wise. Absolutely stupid. And I do mean this in an insultive way. What in your mind thought that, oh, let's spend tokens to place said object, and then let's use tokens again to activate said object? If that's how that was supposed to be by design, how could you not pick that up in your brain and say, hey, something just ain't right here? Now, that's only if you went along that path. Now, if you're trying to tell me on the flip side that, okay, cursing different objects requires different tokens, then I can see where you're trying to implement it. It's not necessarily correct in implementation, but I can see what you're trying to do. And I have a little bit more understanding, and you're more of a smart individual. Doesn't make any sense to use up different tokens, though, on different objects. Like I said, if you just kept the base killer power relevant, you could have just made a longer cast time on a particular object if you wanted to make it stand out from being a powerful curse. And on simple objects, you know, bam, you hit it, it's gone, it's done. There's no need for you to incorporate the witch's domain. Also, in the witch's domain, any type of other world that you want to actually go inside of. You need to know how the particular world activates, what you can see, hear, etc., etc. Is it like the spirit? Can you just hear survivors and see their scratch marks and things? Is it like Freddy, where everything's just kind of filterized for you, but everything else is the same? You can still see survivors walk over, slap survivor. Well, I guess you can't slap survivors, but can you walk over? Can you see survivors? Is there any aura reading at any time? Is it just the regular game with the filter over it, essentially, minus the attack? Or are you trying to incorporate this into being something else when you say the witch's domain? Is it something that happens to the witch and nothing happens? You just are like lit up or something while you're walking around doing things. You know, there needs to be some sort of understanding of this other world or other form or whatever a witch's domain is. I said, can't read your mind, don't know what you're talking about. Again, you didn't take the time to explain this particular token system. And instead of saying, hey, you get 12 tokens, and then saying, hey, all of these cost tokens, you should have definitely have taken the time in between the power and the survivor to actually spell out what all of this means. So I'm not sitting here after you've created this concept looking at this like, what am I supposed to take from this? If a survivor drops a pallet, the pallet will be destroyed and the survivor suffers hindrance for 5 seconds of an unknown percent. When looking at a cursed upright pallet, okay, so now you can curse upright pallets, press the active ability button, but the active ability button takes you into your witch's whatever, your witch's domain. So if you're looking at a cursed upright pallet, you're just going to go into witch's domain by how you put it. Then you have to use your other regular power button to come out of it. There's also some other button that you have to use to curse everything, but I don't know what that button is. The active ability button and the power button's already been taken, so what button you're going to use to curse? Yes, I'm kind of being a little joking there. I'm being very literal of what it says. But pointing out something while semi-joking. When looking at the cursed upright pallet, press the button to drop the pallet. Upon dropping the pallet, you'll suffer a movement speed decrease and cannot attack for a while. But if the pallet slams on a survivor, the pallet will be destroyed and injure them. If it misses, the pallet will be put back in the upright position. Why should you be allowed to pre-slam survivors? Pallets are their thing. The closest thing you can have is make an illusion to the survivor that a particular generator that's gone is there. Why should you have the right to slam any type of upright pallet and injure a survivor with the only means of really that they have to harm the killer? Is like, how dare you? The game is very simple by base. You should not be able to do anything to a pallet that immediately damages a survivor. Because if that's the case, I'm just going to go around, kill Shack pallet and every other god pallet, and as survivors try to run through them, I'm just going to slam them. And then you suffer a movement speed decrease and cannot attack for a while. What is the movement speed decrease? And how long is it that you can't attack for a while? When you're explaining things like this, I don't understand how you can even use the words, oh, you suffer a movement penalty and can't attack for a while. Why are you so lazy and not putting in the effort to explain all of this and write all this out? This is a concept. Concepts show everything. I hope it's not a chapter concept. Yep, that's an entire chapter. You wrote an entire chapter, and yet you hadn't taken the time to explain any of this. That's very shameful. Oh, my phone just went off. What's going on, Galanonim? I thought it was you. All right. Here we go. I just pinned chat. If a survivors that hit good skill checks on a cursed generator will have the generator regress by 3% and a 5 token cost. That's not even good. That's not good at all. And you literally just stole Ode Ruin by putting it like that. I'm gonna assume this is a one-time activation like all the rest though. So you literally are using 5 tokens of the 12 that you have to regress a generator by 3%. Because you can't be per skill check, because that would be old school ruin, and obviously that would be a no-no. If a survivor vaults a cursed window, you'll be able to walk through the window for 1.5 seconds after the survivor vaults it. 2 token costs. What does a poison ivy-esque vine-like killer or a witch that uses vines have anything to do with walking through objects? Where did this come from? It just came out of the blue. And also, 1.5 seconds. What happens if you are inside of this window after that 1.5 seconds? And you're just standing in front of it and it becomes solid again? Do you get stuck? Is the window just held open, forever until then? That's one of the reasons why we don't walk through windows. Because if I can make the window to where I can run through it, aka kill shack wise, and I stand right there inside of it and I look the direction the survivor's looping, when they loop around that corner, they're going to be very confused when I take a couple of steps forwards and then I get that slap in. Phasing through walls and everything like that, and going through windows, etc., should be left to the nurse. It's what she does. After you curse 2 lockers, you create a gateway in which both killer and survivors can go through. Why? Survivors can... Oh, a survivor must do a 3-second prompt to travel through it. Okay, and how long does it take the killer to go through it? Again, you're just leaving assumptions for things, and you're not fully explaining everything. And now there's a random machete. On the map, 1 machete will spawn. A survivor can pick up the machete, and with the machete, a survivor can destroy cursed objects with it. Why do they have to find a machete and then go around taking out all 12 cursed objects? And then with that, also it doesn't say how long it's going to take. Destroying cursed objects will add a 10-second to the cooldown of the killer before they can re-enter Witch's domain. The survivor holding the machete can see the aura of cursed objects and will have their aura revealed to the killer whenever they destroy a cursed object. Again, stop trying to cover your killer's weaknesses. If the killer downs the survivor holding the machete, it will cause it to temporarily be disabled for a minute. You thought you brought in something that, with only using this, can disable whatever cursed objects. And then you immediately protected this weakness by saying, oh, well, their aura is going to be revealed while they're doing it, though. Why? Leave your killer's weaknesses alone. Every killer has to have a major weakness. It's how the game's designed. It gives the survivors something that they can use and exploit. One, I don't agree with there just being one machete and one person able to go around and undo 12 different curses. Because if the curses are spread around the map, which don't make any sense, it's going to take a lot more than 10 seconds to travel between them. And you're not really stopping killer that much. Two, the killer power is really weak. You're essentially just setting mini traps on different objects, and take out the pallet slamming ability, of course. And when a survivor does an action on said cursed object, they receive a penalty. That is very weak. What if survivors, ain't using specific windows and things like that? Then you also show the fact that if it's cursed, survivors can see thorns and everything else growing out of it. So what rational survivor would run through and jump through a window that's thorned, or bolt across a pallet, or even run to a pallet that they can see that's thorned up and cursed? And instead of having 15 different objects and using one token per object, which again, I recommend you just use a power that has a cooldown and then a maximum limit, as opposed to using this weird token system that you've come up with. Everything is just scuffily done. One token for a pallet that's already dropped. You can curse an upright pallet for 3 tokens, and then you can slam them down. 5 token costs for a generator. 2 token costs for a window. And I'm assuming 1 token costs per locker, because it says 2 lockers to create a gateway. If it's 2 tokens per locker, then that's absolutely garbage. Because you're losing 4 tokens and you're getting the ability to teleport from one locker to another locker. That's not good. The only way I can see that being useful is if it's a 3-gen situation, where you have 2 gens on one side and the other one on the other, or if somebody's in basement, where you can just literally teleport from that particular area that you're gen patrolling in. After you're done with your patrol, teleport from locker to locker in basement. Or if somebody gets unhooked, you can get that Devour of Hope trigger and then teleport back to the basement and immediately pursue them. But essentially it's good for camping. And I'm just like, I don't know. This concept, this killer, is very weak by nature. Extremely, extremely weak by nature. And I don't see why anybody would use this killer over the meta killers that are already available. Your killer's not strong, so people playing it for fun are almost guaranteed a 4 survivor escape. And then your killer isn't fun, or even if your killer's bad, at least, it'd be fun to play. There's no fun aspect, there's no usability of power aspect, there's no anything. If you're not gonna go for, meta good, serious, ranked gameplay or fun to play, but, almost gonna be a guaranteed loss. I mean, what balance are you going for? And again, there's no overview. You took the time to write all of these animations that the killer can do, but you never wrote an overview of how your killer's supposed to be played. So, I don't even know how I'm supposed to be reviewing your killer and to say, if your killer's supposed to be almost like played like a trapper, or whether it's supposed to be used to play like a camp and basement Bubba or something like that. I don't know. You never told me. The machete's ridiculous. You can't give your killer a named weakness and then immediately cover that weakness. Don't make sense. Perk name, Vengeance. This is stolen from another concept. I'm not even going to go over it. It's literally stolen from another concept. Unjust treatment. When the obsession is healed, the healer will become injured in a new upset. This is stolen from somebody else's concept. Not going to go over it either. Let's see. This is stolen from another concept. You just added this can happen twice a match. You've literally stole all 3 of your perks from another person's concept. Now that's shameful. You didn't even try to change it. You literally just added this can happen twice a match to the bottom one. And the other 2 you've literally stolen. You copied and pasted word for word. That's very shameful. Apparently, there's no survivors. There's a map that says the witch's house, which is just looks like a dollhouse of some sort. Spoilers for game/manga upcoming. What are you talking about? Is this an advertisement? Is this an advertisement for a new game and you've put it on the creation form? Is this what I'm getting here? Spoilers for game/manga upcoming. And this has been edited since then, that added the animation section in the wrong part. Power and perk changes, so this has been changed and updated. Oh my. And other small changes. Like, I want to know if this is an advertisement or not, because if it is, I have no qualms about getting this knocked off the form. Well, if I flag it, do I get the ability to say what I think it is? Yes. Obviously, it breaks form rules. This post seems like a blatant advertisement. And if I'm wrong, post won't be taken down. Also, I can't spell. The Witch's House is an RPG Maker game, if I remember correctly. Do you know if it costs money to grab it or if it's free? If it's free, I'll leave it alone. But if it costs money, then this is just advertisement for said game, tied into a very low tier and not even detailed review. And I'm gonna go ahead and send it through. Otherwise, not spelling. The game is older and definitely has gotten its publicity as it is already. Alright, I'll leave it alone. But what gets me is it says spoilers for game slash manga upcoming. Oh, never mind. Oh, okay. Because it shows what all of that is. Way to spoil it, but it's old. Alright, I'll leave it alone. Fair enough. Thank you for your assistance. Mr. Critti. How's it going? Fair enough. Uh, I mean, the game could use a witch. Like an actual killer witch. When I seen the witch coming in as a survivor, and the only thing they really did was boon totems and things like that, not gonna lie, I was kind of disappointed because I would actually have liked to see a witch killer. And there are people in the past that have tried to implement witch killers in different aspects. There you go. Definitely that ain't it. Fair enough. Yeah, I'd love to see a witch killer implemented into the game, but I'm just not. It's, it's just implemented so badly. That's why I thought it was like a game, like advertisement. Because I mean, like, it's just random things thrown down. They're like, there was no, it didn't look like there was no effort or anything like that. It's like 115% movement speed is standard. Cool. Where do you get 36 meters of tear radius with a small height and all of that? If you want to see a decent witch, oh, you'll have to go back a long time, actually. Never mind. I was going to give you a general location, but it's been a while since the last actual witch post. Never underestimate people on the forums. Yeah, and Polish translation of Dead by Daylight there is already a killer named Witch, and it's Hag. Oh! Does Hag mean witch? So Hag means witch, Noita means witch? Interesting. But I mean, it makes sense. She deals with charms and things like that. She's just, I want to say like a lore witch, a more brought down to earth, like an actual reasonable witch, as opposed to like the fantasy side of witches where it comes down to, wizards and witches where they have different spells and fly on broomsticks and things like that. But I have often wondered what the hag was. Because I know the hag's a cannibal, kind of like lore wise, where you throw people into the pot, you cook them up, you use your different spices, you use your talismans and things like that. You know, like old school witch. So that's interesting that hag translates in the witch. And then you have, well, I wouldn't say more traditional, I would say more fantasized witch. The more empowered witch, you know, the ones that fly around on brooms and again with the magical wands and everything else, you know, the out there super powerful, you know, summoning things style witch. But yeah, definitely. That's the kind of witch I would like to see in Dead by Daylight. I love hag, but I've never actually noticed the connection between hag and regular folklore. Actually funny. I'm supposed to be the observant one. But I mean, I also don't know hag's backstory either. So, uh, anyway, if they would have went along that path, I think things would have turned out better. And if they, again, knew somebody, talked to somebody who actually had, you know, hours and hours of creation before just, you know, putting out this guy. Well, I guess it says part 5 out of 9. I see him occasionally. Peeman, I see him occasionally. Oh no. Part 5. Okay, this one honestly bothers me because it's such an easy thing to say to do, but it's such a backwards thought process to actually make. I had two things to showcase with this power and many things that I could not properly explain. DBD isn't new to the extreme powerhouse wars, but this one is on another level. Interesting. The Alf, aka Nothing, there is an eldritch aberration of such immense raw power that there is little anyone can do to slow it down. The entity itself is actively holding it back throughout the trial to prevent it from killing survivors. The entity prefers that survivors have some level of hope in their minds during the trial it can feed off of. Hope? Interesting. But the elf creates a primal level of fear in them that even when their memories are erased, their memories aren't erased, dude. They would freeze rather than run when the entity was not as involved as it is now. The two things to showcase were one, everything about this creature is wrong when observed. Two, this thing has such power it has to be limited heavily. Though I think it'd be better for you all to see it for yourself. Um, don't include the entity into your particular explanations if you don't know how the entity operates. Please, just don't. Two, why does the entity who is the almighty being in this particular realm that makes everything, and I mean everything, that is there, that is in this game, have to hold somebody back? If the entity, or if the guy was giving the entity too much of a problem, the entity would just get rid of him in one way or the other. Poof, gone. Every other killer who is known for being super strong and all of that has been limited in what they can do to the entity. They don't even have the ability to kill unless the entity says so. You have to burn offerings to the entity, then say, please, entity, please let me kill a survivor, or let me kill every survivor. First, I will fulfill your satisfaction by hooking them twice, you know, so you can get yours, and then I want to get mine. And the entity says, cool. But, pretty much. That the entity doesn't use its particular power to hold killers back. The killers are under the mercy of the entity, despite what many say. Everything that is being done is for the entity. There isn't any holding it back and things like that. That's why you don't have Freddy, extending his arms through walls and scaring the crap out of survivors and getting easy kills. Why you don't have Michael Myers becoming this unstoppable killing machine. Things like that. Why the spirit's limited and the amount of things that she can do. That's why stuns are in when it comes to the nurse. Things like that. But we'll go beyond that. Biography, I'm not going to read. Go ahead and pause if you want to read any of this. All right. For an aberrant being or an abomination or flesh beast, you actually don't look that terrible. Maybe it's because it's in cartoon, but yeah, I don't really see the problem with that. And he also kept his human structure. If it's something that, is just this aberrant, just nasty, mind breaking being, I definitely wouldn't give him the shape of a human, which is recognizable by humans psychologically, which makes it easy to process. So, okay. Yeah, you're going to want something sort of like a blob. When transferring between stages 2 and 3, it takes on an egg-like shell. This shell has eyes, all you need to know. No, I need to know more than that. But when the shell hatches, the eyes mark where the individual pieces grow out of. There's stage 1 that looks like Victor from the twins. Stage 2 looks like Legion mixed with Meg Thomas. There's a Legion that looks exactly like Meg, right? But anyway. And then 3 marks its iconic appearance. I'm going to skip all of this because none of this I'm seeing as anything that has to do with particular power or anything like that. It's a transforming killer, and I know why you're having trouble going through and trying to implement this into the game because you're trying to change the absolute shape of your killer as opposed to just letting it sit. Everything's regular, which is also weird if you have a transforming beast that goes from, child to egg to bigger beast with longer legs and all of that. You would think that the movement speed and tear radius would differentiate. But sure. Main ability, mortal mimicry. I think he's just using the human form, and he went over this kind of unnecessary lore chain for whatever reason. Because it makes it very confusing and a whole bunch of other stuff. He even talks about a minor reference for that, which makes no sense. But yeah. I'm just gonna say the last form where he looks like a human is the form that he comes in as. That's it. I'm going to ignore all of these different stages and all of this different uh, forms that it has that the game's not going to be able to do appropriately. And I'm just going to try to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, look at all of this. There's no way You would literally, you're asking the Dead by Daylight devs to spend like a year on your one particular killer concept and to rewrite the entire engine and game and how it works. That's crazy. You mimic the human form in ways that humans cannot imagine. Your form does not change throughout the trial. Every time a generator is completed, is it Kuloth? Quiploth? Quiploth? Kapoth? Kapoth. Ah, I bet you it's Kapoth. Power is a total of 57 pages long. Uh, it is very long. I will give you that one. After hooking a survivor, or wait, I'm on Kipoth. Every time a generator is completed, the counter is increased by 1. Pressing the power button when the Kipoth counter is at 0 will activate Kipoth overload. And it doesn't even say what Kipoth overload is afterwards. So not only I actually might have to, this might be one of the rare ones that I have to abandon everything. Because if I'm going to have to take small things out of each concept and then scroll down to figure out what all of this does, there's going to be the huge issue of me having to remember all of this. This might be one that I just straight up abandon. So, you can mimic humans. Um, it has the ghost face reveal function. It can gain speed increases by 10% in 40-second intervals. Their radius is larger. Well, that's a ghost face perk, so no. No, no, no. No, 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 no. No. Here it is. It's all the way towards, it's not even the bottom, but towards the middle. Now I'm getting the overload and the all the other abilities that he has listed. So for me to put any type of thing together, I have to come all the way down here, read what all of these do. This was the first power that was mentioned, by the way. And it's the third one down. So, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to abandon this one. That's my birthday, by the way. The 27th of March. Yeah, I'm going to abandon this one. There's literally just, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, brother. The entire thing is stupidly strong, and personally, I would never want to go against this thing in game. Sometimes all you need to do is just read the ending remarks to figure out everything about a killer. So obviously, it's stupidly strong, and not even the creator would want to go against this own creation. Obviously, it has a lot of detail, but I guarantee you the important things that should be stated aren't stated. The shelter is one of many ways that I decided to balance out the extreme power with something the survivors can make use of. So essentially, there's a shelter that a survivor can go into to be safe. If you have to build a shelter that survivors have to hide in instead of doing generators, there's an issue. If the devs have to implement an entire building in every single map, which can spawn in multiple locations to keep survivors safe from your killer, there's an issue. If the devs have to rewrite the mechanics of the core mechanics of the game and change everything over, there's an issue. And that seems to be what all of that is. And there's nothing you can really comment because nobody on good graces is going to take the time to read through all of that, especially not anybody that's in Dead by Daylight. Like, how do you give advice and actual constructive criticism about all of this? I would have to reply back like 18,000 times. That's insane. I've never seen a concept that long. Generally, I'm complaining about things being, underdone. But my dudes went so far down the rabbit hole that he'll never get back out of that. Pretty, what did you do? I went over this yesterday. Rudy says, a majority of these are incredibly interesting, however, a few standouts include a majority of survivors have a trend of just getting a mini version of one of their perks, which is fine, but still, it's a bit uncreative and something that can be ironed out with some extra thought. Definitely. Why does a meme good? Quentin would have to probably be good enough to fully finish the self heal with a brown medkit after missing a skill check, but anything past that. So, are you essentially saying that? You're essentially saying the same thing that I went over for most of these. But what I originally come through at the end is there's a way to implement all of this, at least survivor side, and make it more usable. And that's by adding in a simple system that states if a particular killer is using their base perks, the perk gets buffed ever so slightly. So mag using sprint burst, let's say regular sprint burst is like 3 seconds. Mag either gets an increase in speed very slightly or an increase of time that the sprint burst works. And that would literally take out all the other survivor posts that he's trying to give them special abilities of their own. And that would tie the particular perks to the actual survivors. And instead of having one thing, per survivor, you would have three per survivor. And they would just be small buffs. And then killer wise, I said, good luck with that. Because, yeah, most of them were OP, or some had things that didn't make sense for the particular killer's playstyle, or other things like that. Like, for instance, Doctor. See you. See you, Galanonim. Till next time. Keep up with those studies, man. I'm rooting for you. Boy, and don't overwork yourself. You're studying before work. Jesus. Nurse one made me pause for a second. The spirit made me question my existence. Nurse successfully hitting a skill check on a gin notifies the nurse. I see. Spirit walking leaves scratch marks. Oh my god, I went over that one too. That's one of the ones I've seen out of the corner of my eye. Above spirit, the where you have to crouch to get away from. You're essentially done. One of the things I want to highlight is me. I started off as a doctor main. I mean, I technically still am. I just ain't played doctor in a couple of months. A lot of people don't like doctor because they can't cheat and turn their sound up and everything else to know where everything is and all of this, and they can't use their exploits that they have against doctor, so they don't like him. I'm like, hey, if you played at a reasonable sound level like you're supposed to, and you stop turning, your sound all the way up and kind of cheating, and you didn't have your sensitivity all the way turned up beyond, what's humanly possible, things like that, you wouldn't have such a terrible experience going against doctor. I hear it all the time. The doctor gives me headaches. The sound's too loud. All of this other stuff. Turn your headphones down. Play the game like it's meant to be played. Stop cheating. You're not meant to be able to isolate where a survivor is that's running on the wall next to you. Yeah, you're meant to hear them as they're clunking by temporarily, but you're not supposed to hear every step and know exactly where they are. you know? I've been an avid person saying that they need to decrease base sensitivity for killer and survivors. All because of the point that survivors that 360 and things like that, killers literally with high sensitivity can miss the hit and then slide their mouse to the right and do a 360 arc, and it'll count as a hit in that entire arc from their camera going around. And it's ridiculous. I can't tell you how many times I've window faked the killer or something like that. They've smacked into the wall and then spun their mouse and gotten a hit on me at the end of their lunge. That shouldn't be a thing. The game's about being, a horror game and things like that, you know? Ain't nobody physically can swing forward, then at the last second turn and bop you hard enough for where you're going to be that injured. So I wish they would fix the super high sensitivity. I wish they would make it, a limit to how high your sound could be or can go to. And they set things, correctly in the settings so everybody's not metagaming the crap out of it. Like altering the game files for an ultra wide screen and being able to see over walls, for example. Sucks for Ghostface because they can reveal me from behind walls. And that's how I know that they're generally cheating. They'll be working on a generator and I'll get revealed. And my killer instinct will go to the person working on the generator behind the wall. And I'm like, bro, really? But like for Doctor, illusionary doctors will force survivors to scream if they ever run into them. The doctor's locations are made to spawn beside and out of the way of a particular survivor. They're meant to scare. They're not meant to make you run into them. That's never going to happen. So Doctor isn't getting any type of benefit, where Spirit is getting God tier. If survivors walk, they leave scratch marks. That's ridiculous. So trying to balance all of this is going to be a nightmare, and it's going to take a long time trying to get everything together. Survivor-wise, easy. Very, very easy. Killer-wise, very hard to do. I already went over that yesterday. I ain't doing it again. The K9, that character is Batman Who Laughs, so Joker. And then, does that knock? Is that how that's pronounced? The knock? It's coming up in an hour and a half. The question is, do I continue to push forward, or do I save this content for tomorrow? I mean, honestly, could also spend the extra time trying to go through this behemoth. Oh my god. You got longer. Dude, what in the world? I don't think I can focus long enough to actually do this. Because I would actually like to tear this apart and see what's actually going on, but holy cow. I can go over perks though. Perks will tell me if the regular's drawn out or not. Scourge hook skin taking. You take those that panic and turn them into shells without emotion. Regular scourge hook things. When a survivor is unhooked from a scourge hook, they suffer from the hemorrhage and mangled status effects. Those status effects are removed when fully healed. When fully healed, the survivor suffers from the blindness effect until they are injured again. Really? Really? When the survivor is injured after being fully healed, reveal the aura of the survivor that healed that survivor. Really? The triple whammy, huh? We're really going for the triple whammy. And do you think just making it a scourge hook gives you the ability to make something into a triple whammy? So you're hooked and you're dying. When a survivor pulls you from said hook, you get the hemorrhage and mangled status effects. Hemorrhage, you lose more blood. Mangled, 50% decrease in healing. When you finally heal up after all of that BS, you get the blindness status effect, and now you can no longer see auras. Until you're injured again. Then, when you get injured again, the person that was the kindness of their heart to heal you has their aura revealed to the killer. One, it doesn't even say for how long, or whether it's, like a 1 second, 4 second, or just indefinite until you get hooked or something. Doesn't really say. So for one, I really can't give you an accurate assessment. I'm assuming that it's just gonna be for like 4 seconds, like barbecue and chili. But I mean, this particular perk, the designer, the creator, that likes to kind of go way too overpowered about things, it might be until that survivor is fully healed or hooked. In that case, this perk is extremely powerful because after you hook somebody, well, I would run this particular perk with Devour of Hope. I would hook somebody. I would walk away across map. I would get that token in Devour of Hope. When that person gets unhooked, I would head back in that general direction. After they are healed and all of that time, I should be back in the area. And they should be, running around doing their pibbity pobbity survivor things. I would walk over, slap that survivor again, get the aura of the survivor that healed them. And I would slap that next survivor down, hook them. and then lather, rinse, and repeat until either the two people that are unhooking and healing each other, I have both of their auras on lock for the rest of the game, or it chained to all four survivors. After I have all four survivors, I would just tunnel them out one at a time. Get rid of that guy, and then get rid of that guy, and then get rid of that guy, and then get rid of that guy, and have aura reading the entire time. I'd know every single gen that you're working at, every single step that you make, and there'll be no way for you to escape me. So no, I can't necessarily endorse this particular perk because you think that a Scourge Hook is good enough to apply all of these crazy effects. Crazy. Inspiring Greeting. Within the first 60 seconds of the trial, when a survivor is working on a generator, your aura is revealed to them. If a survivor looks at your aura, they will scream, revealing their location to you, then become afflicted with the blindness status effect until hello deactivates. What is hello? I guess Inspiring Greeting deactivates. You can't just call your perk Inspiring Greeting and then call the perk hello with a question mark. Weird. Me personally, I would rather just run Nemesis's perk, and for the first, what is it, like, what, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, something crazy like that? I don't know, I haven't played Nemesis since public test beta. The first X amount of time in the particular trial, I know exactly where everybody is. Nemesis. Oh yeah, he has a perk called Nemesis. It's Lethal Pursuer. At the start of the trial, auras or all survivors are shown for 9 seconds. 9 seconds. But a lot of people, I hear hate Lethal Pursuer. And I look at it and I'm just like, it's not that bad. I mean, somebody who spawns next to the killer is kind of borked from the start. But I mean, as soon as those 9 seconds are up, so I mean, as long as you stay near a loop at the start, which I mean, with my luck, when I play Dead by Daylight, regardless if they're running it or not, they find me immediately. So I guess I'm speaking by my own experience of always having killer at the start of a match. After those 9 seconds are up, they just lost a perk slot. They now only have 3 remaining for the rest of the trial. That's not that great of a perk. If you think about, you get 9 seconds of benefit and then 0 for the rest of the trial. That's extremely terrifying because the game can be easily manipulated. If you go to the farthest generator that you spawn at, a survivor spawns guaranteed there. And if you don't see anybody near there, and obviously they're not hiding or anything like that, but by that time they've at least touched the generator to let you know that they've been there. They're at a middle generator, and all of the 4 of them spawn together. So they're a middle range generator from your spawn. And if you follow that template, I mean, I haven't had a problem since I've been playing. 100% of the time that I can remember, it's always been like that. So at least there's a 90% chance of this working at bare minimum. but 100% chance, as far as I remember playing, that it's worked every time. So, Lethal Pursuer isn't necessarily that strong, at least to me, until they go back through and update their spawns. But if they do randomize spawns, they can't necessarily make two survivors spawn together. I mean, they can, but the jig's kind of up on them trying to delay gen progress of making two survivors spawn together. So they'd be kind of undoing their extra work or adding extra work in and happen to make two survivors spawn together on random spawns. So yeah, you can't fix that without exposing yourself. Feels bad. um, I mean, it's old school object of obsession, except for you scream and your location gets revealed for X amount, and then you get the blindness status effect. One, it's the first 60 seconds of a trial. Unless you're running any type of perk that shows generators and where they're at, or, like brand new and running, like crazy perks that's all about ore reading, it's not going to help the particular killer. Also, with Lethal Pursuer, that allows you 9 seconds of ore reading, I don't think 60 seconds is the appropriate time limit to have on that. 60 seconds, you've been patrolled majority of the generators on the map. So, I mean, this is either survivors are going to look at you and scream, or survivors are going to know that you're running the particular perk because they can see you. What is the range of this? Because if you're going to have an unlimited range, then you're going to have to do it like Ghostface and make it to where your particular positioning has to be, like around the middle of their screen in order for this to proc. So they could peripheral you in the third person camera very easily and make you waste your perk. You're also giving the survivors information about where you are. If you're running near a survivor, they're obviously going to look at you to see which direction you're coming in after them barely screaming and all of that, and then losing their aura reading for whatever reason that you'd need at the beginning of a map is beyond me. They're just going to hide. That's all they're going to do is hide. Whether it's a locker, whether they go out into, the field or over into the forest or wherever they are or into a main building or regardless, they're just going to hide from you. And now you're going to be aura red as a killer, and all the survivors are going to know exactly where you are that first 60 seconds. It takes 80 seconds to do a generator. 60 of those 80 seconds, they're going to know which generators they can work on and whether or not they need to move. This is extremely bad for killer. This is why we use perks like Lethal Pursuer that allows us to see survivors for a short amount of time and see exactly what generators they're going for, or whether they're going to stick together, and then you can go for the generator that has the most people on it, or the person closest to you. Either or. You have options. So Inspired Greeting is not a particularly good perk. It's Lethal Pursuer, but nerfed unless the survivor's dumb enough to actually look at you. Goodbye. If survivors are performing a cooperative action in your terror radius, goodbye becomes, did you steal this? This is a stolen perk. Literally ripped this off of somebody else's concept. Almost word for word. Now, I thought about this earlier when I was skimming through everything. I seen things that were familiar. Maybe it's the same character creator. I don't know, but Goodbye is literally ripped from somebody else's content or concept. And I'm not gonna go any further than that. That is the second time today that I've seen something that's been ripped from somebody else's concept. Just straight up, oh, no, I think I'm taking this from you. I like the way it goes. It's mine now. You at least give the man some credit. Or ask them. You know, if you ask them and it's been like 10 days or something, 5 to 10 days, and they ain't replied back, then, you can assume that, they're not active on the forum. And it's alright. Just give them credit. This perk by this author. It's not that hard. Or this perk from this killer concept. If you really don't want to find out who they are, at least you gave them some sort of credit. But that is an hour and a half, and that is what I was shooting for in a particular creation review episode. Yes, I didn't go into extreme detail like I usually do. And yeah, I kind of let some things slide between the cracks, but most of these that I reviewed today have their obvious flaws and things like that, and they aren't necessarily going to get off the ground in the way they implemented things. So I don't feel the need to essentially kick somebody when they're down, you know? Now, if they ever update their concepts and they add in, more information, things like that, we can talk into going on to a full review. But I mean, two concepts I looked at today was just stolen perks off of other concepts. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that if the other creator comes and says, hey, this is my perk. Oof. Um, it is very early in the day for me. I actually have nothing to do today on a Tuesday. Very awkward. Mm, I don't know. I know Splinter Cell's back on the docket. Everything on my computer is fixed, updated, and I no longer have to worry about things. I know I had, I know I had malware bytes popping up, trying to run scans, trying to update, trying to do a whole bunch of crazy things. My graphics card decided it wanted to update. My Windows decided it wanted to update. Windows kept crashing every freaking like couple of minutes, and I would have to restart my computer, which would mess up the update, which would make me have to restart everything. And I mean, it took me in excess of, well, I mean, I was at 5 hours of messing with everything when I did that small side swipe stream. And then well, actually, I just sat there watching YouTube videos the couple of hours until everything completed, which is a couple of hours later. Then my friend was like, yesterday, hey, you need to download It Takes Two, I want to finish that game and all of that. And I'm like, all right, cool. That game wasn't even that big, but for whatever reason, it took 12 hours to download. 12 hours. I don't know if Steam went down, it was their regular scheduled maintenance time, or whatever, but it took it 12 hours to download. Dead by Daylight, when I go from public test beta to actual game, is the only game I generally have to leave my computer on overnight to update. But It Takes Two, being small, extremely, extremely small, took that long. And I was just like, holy shit, dude. Like, we need to hurry up and beat this, today. Just bust it out so I can get it off of my hard drive. So, I mean, I guess I do have it. I mean, I'm still gonna put out a Splinter Cell stream because that's the series that I'm on, and I didn't get the chance to yesterday. So there'll probably be two missions that I'll play off of that. Um, we are towards the end of the game, so I don't even think it's relevant to stream It Takes Two. I wish I would have streamed our entire playthrough because it was actually funny and we screwed around and trolled each other a lot. But it is what it is, you know? It is what it is. Well, anyway, I'm gonna head out. I just woke up for the day when I started this. Like, literally. I literally woke up. I said, crap, it's like 11 something my time. I gotta do these reviews. I came immediately to my computer, turned my computer on, opened up the website, hit record. So, this is the first thing I've done for the day. So, I got things to do to get myself, ready for the particular day. I will be back later on for the Splinter Cell Blacklist playthrough to continue that. After that playthrough is finished, and because there's going to be a lack of content on the channel, I do not know what I'm going to do. My time slots are going to be completely open around about this time when I run out of content for the creation forum, or if there's nothing posted for that day. And then once I finish Splinter Cell Blacklist, I'll have an entire half a day open. I'm caught up on all of my extra work I do outside of streaming and gaming as well too. Because of that stream going very wrong yesterday, I had time to do everything that I needed to do. So, I don't know. 3 days are just kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'll take another college course or something during the day. Who knows? Get some more certifications and things like that. I don't know. There's a little background on Q. Regardless, I think I'm out for the day. As always, supplement your lifestyle, and I hope to see you next time.